Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wild. Today we are talking about causing customer cancellation violations on Doordash. Imagine doing everything right. You contact the customer, let them know that their order is delayed, you double check the store about a missing item, you wait even longer than most drivers would, just trying to make sure that the customer still gets their food despite everything else, and then bam, you get a notification. Inaccurate information provided or delivery not attempted. A contract violation for simply trying to do the right thing, and that's the reality for too many drivers right now. That's what Doordash is calling causing customer cancellation. And if that sounds backwards, you're not wrong. So in this video, we are talking about everything you must know about causing customer cancellation violations on Doordash, what they are saying about it versus how it actually is, and everything in between. But before we do that, let's go over a quick disclaimer. The content of this video does not contain, is never intended to be, legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is advised that you conduct your own research and consult qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. I also want to be clear that everything that we're going to be going over is very market to market and case by case. What applies to me and my market may not apply to you. So with that said, let's get started. What Doordash tells you. This is a policy you can only find in the Dasher contract violations FAQ. We consider that a Dasher caused a customer cancellation when there is evidence that their actions or inaction intentionally led to the order being canceled. I get what they're trying to say here, but it is interesting how they open this section of an FAQ with what feels like an accusation. But then again, that is the purpose of this part of the article, right? Examples include going offline for an extended period after pickup. I think I have seen this before, and it has led to some unruly behavior by the customer and has received some media attention before. The challenge is that going offline isn't always the fault of the Dasher. Sometimes it is about the Dasher having challenges with their phone plan. Sometimes it could just be a dead area that they're delivering to. And don't even get me started on office buildings that have the reception that feels like a bomb shelter and the security like Fort Knox. Not making progress toward the customer drop-off location, such as driving in circles or moving in the wrong direction. Okay, but are they accounting for construction zones, high traffic times and areas, trains, drawbridges, etc.? I doubt it. The amount of lateness violations I receive for extreme lateness, because in my area there are drawbridges that open on the hour and half an hour, are absolutely ridiculous. That is just Florida, by the way. I'm sure there are other areas that have similar issues, but slow-moving trains also affect things. Traffic times also affect things. There are a plethora of reasons that somebody would have to change their route. Also, what if the customer gave a wrong address? What if you actually contacted support to see if they can give you the green light to deliver this further, and you were actually following instructions, and now you're going to get punished for it? Add that to the list of reasons not to accept last-minute address changes, by the way. Canceling for reasons that do not match the Dasher's actual behavior. Claiming the merchant canceled without arriving at the store. Okay, I get that this could be a valid reason to give someone this violation, but I have had a merchant call me specifically before I made my way to the pickup location as soon as I accept an order. And they said that it was gonna be 30 plus minutes to complete the order, which is really something that deters drivers from actually wanting to go and pick up the order for that order and future orders. I could absolutely see how a dirty opportunist will take advantage of their transparency and retaliate by claiming the merchant canceled the order instead of unassigning immediately. So this actually might be a good reason to give someone a violation. Using customer requested or issue with drop-off as a reason when there is no record of customer communication or no attempt to reach the drop-off. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, don't tell me that the customer wouldn't answer you or you couldn't get in touch with the customer if you didn't even try. I understand how some of them can be, by the way. Some of them can be wildly irresponsible ordering food and then ghosting you, but at least try to reach them. Like, in order to fight back against customers like that, you need a paper trail. And in order to get a paper trail, you actually have to build the paper trail with actions and resources available to you. Something that you have to build yourself. It's important to always follow in-app instructions, communicate honestly, and make a good faith effort to complete each delivery. Inducing a cancellation, whether by inaction or misrepresentation, is a violation of policy and may result in a contract violation. You'll receive these notices when an order is canceled in the Dasher app, but we have evidence that the Dasher's actions or inaction caused the cancellation. It will appear in your rating tab as causing customer cancellation contract violation. Now, my issue with this seems to be a violation that has been overstepping boundaries. It is one thing to give somebody a violation for a wrongful order cancellation. It is another to give someone a violation when the reason it was canceled actually makes sense. Also, I feel like this is going to lead to heavier mass deactivations of drivers. If an order is canceled by a customer for any reason, it is your fault until you prove otherwise. To avoid this type of violation, make sure you are not influencing the customer to cancel their order. It's okay to communicate delays or issues, but you should never encourage or suggest or pressure the customer to cancel as a way to avoid completing the delivery. If there's a problem, long wait time, store delay, item unavailable, follow the in-app prompts and let the system guide you. Only customers can decide to cancel, and your role is to complete the order to the best of your ability. I feel like influencing is a loose term here. Also, documented communication is going to be key here because, yes, you can call them and let them know of their options that way, but then it really depends on how the customer decides to report the cancellation. They could easily just claim, hey, they spoke to the driver and they decided to cancel with no other notes or context. If they ask why, they could just say, after speaking to the driver about the progress of the order, they thought it would just be best to forget it. That would likely fall onto the driver as a violation due to how vague it was. And the worst part is that the customer would still have to fight over the phone to get a refund, which you know that they're going to fight for because that was the point. Unassigning versus canceling. Before we get too much further, I do want to remind people the difference between cancellations and unassigns. Unassigning an order is when you decide not to finish an order for some reason after accepting it and putting it back into the delivery pool with all of the other orders to potentially be reaccepted and delivered by another driver. This means you surrender the earnings potential for the order, but you could get right back to work and they could try to get another driver, albeit a little late, but it is what it is. Having an order canceled means that the order is no longer being sent out at all. It is removed from the system. The customer is not getting their food. The merchant's not getting paid, and you're only getting half pay for that order. Sure, it's something, but you also spend a lot of time fighting over the phone for this, or you use the in-app workflow to increase your chances of being accused of something you didn't do. These issues are also perpetuated by the apps not making it clear enough in some cases, and Doordash continuing their pursuit in other endeavors to make you look like the problem when in reality, no, you're not. The automation problem. What makes all of this worse is that most of these violations aren't being reviewed by real people anymore. Doordash has quietly automated a huge part of its enforcement system, meaning algorithms, not humans, are often the ones deciding whether or not your actions caused cancellation. And that means if the app data says you stopped moving, or you went offline, or you didn't reach the drop off, it can flag you automatically. Even if your phone lost signal, your app crashed, it was glitching out, something very common on the Doordash platform, or you were waiting for an order that was already late when you picked it up, that can be put onto you. These automated checks might make sense on paper, but in practice, they will completely ignore the human side of gig work. A driver can do everything right, communicate with the customer, verify issues with the store, follow protocol and policy, and still get hit with the violation because the system only works at the GPS, breadcrumbs, and timestamps. It's one thing to punish bad behavior on the platform. It's another when the app's code can't tell the difference between a driver who's scamming and one who's just stuck behind a drawbridge inside of a dead zone. And that's why documentation and communication are more important than ever. If the algorithm is judging you, you need your own paper trail to protect yourself. And that's where things start to spiral. Because when automation gets it wrong, when the system blames a driver for something completely out of their control, it doesn't stop at a false violation. It opens a door for bad actors to exploit the same system. If a customer realizes they could cancel an order, claim the driver said it was delayed, and trigger a refund without any proof, that's where you start to see patterns of abuse. So the question then becomes, are we dealing with a legitimate accountability tool or just another loophole in Doordash's endless refund cycle? A new refund method? Like I said, I think a new refund method is definitely going to come out of this, and it is not going to be pretty for Doordash or their drivers. Like I said earlier, it wouldn't take much to make a report without providing any details, so I could definitely see how this could be weaponized by the bad actors or low tipping or no tipping customers. I understand Doordash's attempts to crack down on bad actors, as they are now and have been doing so, by the way. It's not like they're not making any attempts to stop it, but now it feels like they're just inviting the next wave of them to come through and cause the next wave of mass deactivations. This is actually kind of easy to avoid as well by simply only accepting quality orders on the platform. The customers who tend to tip the least scam the most. And if you follow the basic principles of no tip, no trip, you will eliminate the large majority of bad customers who will try to weaponize this. Fear-based compliance. That's the thing about policies like this. They don't just punish bad behavior. They train what Doordash considers good drivers to act out of fear. That's the problem with their definition of good. It isn't about professionalism, communication, or reliability. It's about obedience. It's about being a good little driver. A good driver to them is someone who doesn't question the system, dispute violations, and just keeps grinding, taking whatever orders come their way just to protect their ratings and be a part of programs that don't make sense to be a part of. When every small decision feels like it could trigger a violation, you stop thinking like a business owner and start thinking like someone who's walking on eggshells. You'll take an order that you shouldn't. You'll stay in a restaurant that's clearly backed up and it's going to take a long time. You'll drive across town for a $4 payout, all because you thought of being flagged again is worse than losing money on one bad order. That's exactly what these systems rely on. Fear-based compliance. Fear keeps compliance high. It pushes drivers to absorb the cost of the platform mistakes and customer errors, just to avoid being marked as non-compliant and trying to work off a violation that has been put on their account just to get through that 100 to actually get it off. Doordash doesn't need to explicitly threaten you to get what it wants. The app already does that through pop-ups, warnings, those violation banners at the top of rating screens that just add a level of frustration the second you see it. What ends up happening is that you now have a workforce that's too anxious to challenge the system, afraid to unassign, and too exhausted to fight back. That's not accountability, that's control through fear. And if you've been paying attention, that's it. You can see exactly where this is headed. Doordash doesn't want drivers who think for themselves. They want drivers who follow prompts, take orders, and don't question the outcome. Every new violation, every new policy update, every forced reminder about quality metrics is a part of the same pattern, slowly removing driver independence while pretending it's about safety and consistency. Because a driver who operates independently can adapt, question unfair systems, and make smarter business decisions. But a driver who's constantly second-guessing themselves, well, that's a driver that's easy to control and the epitome of a 1099 employee. That's where we start to see the real direction Doordash is moving. Not towards improving the customer experience, but towards tightening its grip on the people who keep the platform running. The direction of Doordash? Doordash seems to be increasing the number of contract violations on the platform to make it seem like drivers are the sole reason that orders don't get completed. Unassign? Get a violation if someone waits for it and has it canceled. Cancel? Get a violation for having it canceled. It isn't to say that the driver doesn't have good reasons or that the customers aren't also at fault, but this is truly messed up on how only violation updates are on the driver's side of things. Not the customers, not the merchants, the drivers. It's a really disgusting thing to solely blame drivers for what is a multifaceted business, something that they've claimed themselves on multiple occasions when it suited them, and that was an excuse for a long time from a political and media kind of viewpoint. But in practice, it's a bold-faced lie and is only enforced on the driver's side. I get that this could be challenging though, because merchants are the reasons that you're getting orders to fulfill. Customers are the reason that you are getting those orders, but drivers are the ones fulfilling them. Not to mention, if you deactivate a customer, they could just make another account so they have the least capacity to hold accountable. But still, you would think that they would try a little harder than below surface level expectation. Reframing power. At this point, Doordash isn't even subtle about it. These violations and policy shifts are designed to create friction to wear you down until you stop asking questions and just follow along. But here's what they don't expect. Informed drivers who understand how to play the game smarter. Sure, you're on their platform. Sure, you're labeled an independent contractor, but treated more like an employee. But that doesn't mean you don't have power. It means you just have to use it differently. Your power comes from knowledge, documentation, and strategy. Every time you keep records, every time you refuse to take an unprofitable order, every time you build relationships with local merchants or run multiple apps, you're reclaiming control they never wanted you to realize you had. Because the truth is, independence isn't given by DoorDash's terms of service. It's earned through how you operate. That's where diversification truly comes in. Because once you understand how the systems work, you stop waiting for it to treat you fairly. You start building something that does. You begin stacking income streams, not orders. You start to learn how to use DoorDash, Uber Eats, Instacart, Grubhub, any of these other gig apps as tools and resources instead of relying on any one of them for survival. You start turning what used to be a side hustle into an actual business strategy. Diversification isn't about chasing more apps. It's about creating more options and opportunities. The more flexible you are, the less power any single platform has over you. And that's when you stop playing defense and start playing offense. Because the end goal was never to be the perfect dasher. It was to be a driver that knows the system and uses it intelligently. It keeps building towards something bigger, something that you own. The importance of diversification. If I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. Diversification is survival in the gig economy. But it's more than just signing up for multiple apps. It's about protecting your independence by spreading your risk. When you depend on one platform, every new policy update or violation feels like a threat to your income. But when you're diversified, it's just noise. You can pause one app, pivot to another. You can use your downtime to build something that lasts. Whether it's a small delivery network, content creation, having your own local partnerships, you start to realize that these apps aren't your employers, they're your clients. And just like any other business, you can pick and choose who's worth working with. That's the real power here. Choice. When you have options, you don't panic. When one company tries to move the goalposts, you adapt, you reposition, and you keep moving forward. And for those who are ready to go even further, from driver to owner, that is why we built the Build Your Own Delivery Service Provider course to help you do exactly that. I've partnered with experienced professionals to create a step-by-step guide to create a six-figure earning business in as little as 90 days. The course will guide you to creating your your own business entity and foundation, methods to source restaurants and drivers with game-changing opportunities, work with top-of-the-line seamless technology for drivers and merchants, and resources and done-for-you contracts to protect you financially. You will also have access to high-level professional guidance to help you build your business foundation and support you as you reach greater heights. Check the link in the description to sign up and get started on Businesses Serve Customers. Now, gig workers will get greater opportunities with you. We are excited and looking forward to helping you secure your financial future. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, Doordash could keep rewriting its policies, renaming violations, and shifting the blame from them to you, but drivers still have something the system can't automate: awareness and adaptability. Most of these so-called violations aren't about right and wrong, they're about control, about training drivers to comply instead of question. The more you understand about those systems and how they really work, the less power they have over you. Every time you track your deliveries, document your communication, and make smart decisions about which orders you accept, you're building leverage. And when you start creating your own opportunities across multiple platforms, even as a business owner, you stop waiting for permission and start driving your own results. Because being a good driver isn't about what DoorDash wants, it's about doing what's right for you, your business, and your future. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. Check out my website, drivenwyld.com, if you would like to learn more about some of the services and gig platforms we have talked about in the past and are offering to gig workers today. Also, if you want to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the gig economy today and be in the know of what most people are talking about, make sure you check out our new channel, the Gone Wyld Live Clips and Podcasts, where we take the live streams we hold on Thursdays at 9, cut them down to more digestible clips, and have them posted there. Also, check out my Patreon for exclusive clips, full-length live stream replays, and other membership perks for self-employed individuals who want to grow and scale their business. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time. Rise up, shake off that 9-to-5 rust. In this wild world of hustle we trust. Break them all, leave them all in dust. Driven was the only wave of must.